Hi everyone. This short video is just going to walk you through the syllabus since we can't do it in class together. Um, this class, even though you just took methods 1 with me, is going to be a little different in that we did all the prep for your paper in methods 1, and in this class we're actually going to be writing your literature review. So all of my contact information is the same. My office hours are much lengthier than this actually. The good news about this class is that you already have the book, so there's no ordering the book or purchasing the book. We use the same book as Methods 1. We went through the first half of that text in Methods 1, and we'll be reading through the second half of those chapters for this second session course. Essentially for this class, text-wise, we're going to be going over some more complex research ideas, whereas in Methods 1, we just went over some basics of data collection and some of the more simple concepts revolving around validity and reliability. So by the end of this course, you should be able to identify the various ways to empirically test a research hypothesis, so the methods of collecting and then analyzing the research. So we go a little bit more into statistics for this class. We're going to create an outline for your research paper. And this outline is going to help us conceptually organize the information that we found across our articles instead of talking through them sequentially or chronologically. We're going to practice a couple times in 2 different modules utilizing track changes and other collaborative writing techniques. We'll be hopping on to a Google Doc and working through it together. And we'll also be learning how to go through my track changes and comments. And then finally, you should end up with a very well revised APA style literature review. Like last session, this is an online course. Everyone seemed pretty familiar with Canvas. We will be utilizing a couple new tools like the group and collaboration options. Course requirements. The first 3 requirements are going to be the same as our class last session. Same textbook, you'll be reading 1 chapter from it a week and taking a practice quiz on it. Again, with these practice quizzes, you can take them up to 3 times. After each time, you can review your correct answer feedback. So essentially, you can take the quiz, look and see what you got wrong, what you got right, and then retake that quiz once you've seen what all the correct answers are. Your score for those quizzes will then be the average of those 3 attempts. So you don't want to just go into the quiz without having read, knowing that you can retake it, because if you get a really low score on the quiz initially, it's going to pull down your average. So you want to try to do your best the first time and then just use those second 2 opportunities to pull up the grade for any items you may have gotten wrong. We have 2 tests in this course. Unlike last session, there are no short answer items on the test. There's no short essays, only 50 multiple choice questions. We'll be doing plenty of writing in this class that we'll talk about in a second. So you only have multiple choice questions on your 2 tests. Most of them come directly from your quizzes. And all of them are based on the text. None of them are going to be based on the module content that goes over our writing assignments, okay, straight from the textbook. This time we have discussions for 2 weeks. On the weeks where you don't have any huge assignments due, we'll be spending in collaborative discussions with each other. And that would specifically be week 1. So our first week, we're going to reflect on what we've already done in methods 1 and kind of troubleshoot and discuss the outline. And then in week 6, that'll be after your first revision of the paper. In those discussions, I'm going to pose some very specific questions that you need to address that ask you to reflect on some of these writing processes and to go through some activities or tasks that ask you to think about some of this research conceptually. Then after you've done your own discussion post, I ask that you respond to at least 2 of your peers' discussion posts. They'll be talking through their writing process and trying to relate some of their articles together. So you can respond to this post by giving them meaningful feedback on how they're trying to relate their articles better. You can suggest tips or provide some type of insight that has helped you throughout this process. You can offer them support if you guys are both just kind of struggling through to know that this is actually just part of the writing process. Your personal post should be a minimum of 2 paragraphs, so 8 sentences, and your responses to a peer should be at least 1 paragraph, okay? Responses to your peers that aren't really meaningful, and essentially just agree with them or restate something that they've said aren't going to receive credit. Um, and if you're in post, you do not address the actual questions and just kind of dance around the actual task, you're also not going to be receiving full credit for that. So each of these two discussion posts is worth 15 points. And essentially, it is graded on whether or not you follow these instructions in the syllabus. The major assignment for this class is the literature review. We built up to this literature review all last session by refining our topic and finding all of the articles that you're going to use for it. So you should be in a very good spot to go ahead and start writing, okay? For this, we're going to need 6 empirical references that you're going to discuss in the body of your paper. If it happens that you need some additional references that aren't empirical, but that you need to cite like in the introduction when you're like defining things or providing background information, you can get other types of references, okay? And include those to cite information throughout, but they are not going to count towards your minimum of 6 empirical references, okay? If you are new to this class and transferred in the credit for Psychology 315 and did not take it with me last session, I have a prerequisite assignment for you that you'll need to complete before moving on to any of the literature review assignments. The other students completed this at the end of last session, and it shouldn't take too long, but before you can start working on your outline, you're going to need to complete an assignment that'll be at the very beginning of that first module. It will require you to complete and submit that assignment before it lets you move on. Essentially, that assignment is asking you to come up with a research topic that you want to write the paper on. So, you know, the effects of spaced studying versus mass studying, or the effects of cognitive behavioral therapy on nightmares, or you know, we want to come up with a relatively specific topic, and then you're going to find 6 empirical articles that are on that specific topic in our library. And I will provide all of the resources and the tutorials that walk you through how to do all of those things in that module. After that, everyone is going to start by creating an outline, which will be walked through in the first and second module in great detail. There will also be a specific grading rubric provided that's available for download and a couple examples from students in previous semesters. After that, I'm going to provide feedback on your outline. I'm going to help you edit your outline and present using track changes, and then I'm going to leave comments also in the form of track changes that make suggestions for things that you should change in your outline, okay? The idea is that we can use this outline to make sure that we're conceptually organizing the discussion of your empirical articles. Sometimes the outline is the hardest part because it can include all of the information that's going to be in your paper. You're essentially gathering all the information, all of the references together and organizing them. And really all of the paper requires then is to translate that very detailed outline into paragraph form in APA formatting. So after you go through my track changes and suggestions and you revise your outline accordingly, you're going to resubmit it into Canvas. And that'll be worth another 20 points. So both of these outlines are 20 points. I do not call these drafts because drafts sometimes give the impression that something is incomplete or not quite done yet, okay? Number 1 here is not a first draft of your outline, and it's a complete outline, okay? The second one is just us polishing it up and perfecting your outline. Both of these are worth 20 points. We'll be doing a similar process for your literature review. So after you've turned in your revised outline, which has been polished up by us through revisions and track changes, you're going to turn that into an APA-style literature review. Okay. In Module 4, it's going to guide you through in great detail how to translate that outline into APA formatting. And it's also going to provide all the criteria and grading rubric that you can download to make sure that you're meeting all the requirements of the assignment. They do not detail all the specifics in the syllabus because it would be a lot. So they're provided in separate handouts within that module. Okay, your literature review is worth 50 points, and it will be due into Canvas Sunday, April 8th. After that, I'm going to provide feedback and review that literature review much like I did your outline. I'm going to had a great deal of track changes to your paper. I will be correcting some stuff for you and then pointing out other things that you need to correct and make comments about your writing and such. So remember, one of the most important parts of writing is rewriting. No one writes perfectly the first time. We have to get it all out, put it down, not look at it for a while, hopefully have someone else from a different perspective look at it before we pick it back up again and try to polish it up and perfect it. Okay. Um, so after you've turned in your original literature review, I'm going to provide you with feedback and track changes, and we're going to schedule a short individual WebEx meeting during week 6. That's where we can hop on WebEx, talk together, and screen share and look at these track changes, and I will explain what everything means and reiterate any requests for revision. It just helps to get on there and talk through it because sometimes the amount of track changes can look overwhelming. So we will set up your specific time for your meeting in week 5 using a doodle poll. And then here's a link to make, if you're unfamiliar with WebEx, to make sure that you're all set before our meeting. It's really important that you come to this meeting. Please do not stand me up and no show. If something comes up, this is, we're all working. So if you're not able to attend, you need to let me know before your scheduled meeting, okay? And then you need to reschedule the meeting within the next couple days. Otherwise, if you don't show up for your meeting, I'm not going to be able to give you credit, and this WebEx meeting is worth 10 points. Okay. Then after the meeting, in week 7, you're going to turn in your revised literature review. So you're going to accept all my track changes, try to address all of my comments, and then you're going to go through the rewriting process and proofing process on your own, trying to make your paper more clear, eliminating words that you don't need, substituting more basic words in for more complex words that you've used for the sake of sounding smarter. Okay, these are some things that you really are only going to notice after you've put the paper down for a little bit. So this is your time to go through that rewriting process. That's going to be due on week 7. Okay, this is a breakdown of instructional time and out of class work. This is a very writing heavy class. The learning modules are going to take you through how to do all of the assignments and the techniques, the writing techniques and the editing techniques that are required, but you're going to be spending a great deal of time actually writing. So please plan accordingly that these assignments, the writing assignments, are not going to be something that you can put off until Sunday afternoon and complete in a few hours. Here's the schedule for the course. See that for this first week, you're going to start off where we left off in the textbook and read that short chapter and take a quiz on it. And then we have a discussion. The discussion is going to prompt you to think conceptually about your articles and come up with a way that you can group them together in your outline and discuss them. So you want to think about things that are related. So these 3 studies used this method and found this, whereas these 3 studies used a different method and found this. And it gives you the opportunity to relate and make comparisons that make sense to your reader. The next week, you'll take another quiz, and then you'll be turning in that outline. Following week is the revised outline along with another quiz. The next week, your literature review is due. You'll notice that I do not have a quiz set up here. We're going to skip reading a chapter and skip taking a quiz so that you can dedicate all of your time to putting together the best version of this literature review that you can, okay? So all of your minutes that were outlined in the previous section are to be dedicated to writing this literature review for this week. After you turn it in, you're going to take a quiz. We'll do the doodle poll to schedule our individual meeting, and then you're going to take a test on the textbook chapters that you've read so far, okay? During this week, you take a test, and I will be providing feedback and revising and doing track changes on your literature reviews. So this was intentionally, the first test was kind of spaced later into the course intentionally so that I would have the whole week while you guys were studying for the test and reading to provide some really detailed and meaningful feedback on your literature reviews. See that the last day to withdraw is April 13th. After coming back from that, you're going to start again with a quiz and a discussion, and then we'll have our WebEx meeting. You'll see that the time here is to be determined because we're going to schedule your particular meeting in week 5. The following week, you'll take another quiz, and then your revised literature review is due. And then